Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for joining me for today's session. I have today a guest with me, Mr. Jason Lee. He's an author and a property entrepreneur in his own right, and he's here today to share with us some of his experiences and how he has maneuvered in some of the challenges that he's faced and how he started out in property all the way to living in Canada, Vancouver today. So thank you very much, Jason, for joining me. Welcome to my channel. And yeah, so just if we can get started, like, who is Jason? And if you could tell us a bit more about how you got started in this property game, what really got you interested and made you to basically start out and also grow in the property space.
Sure. Well, first of all, Nifo, thank you very much for wanting to interview me. It's actually been a while since I've done one of these, so I appreciate you reaching out. And as I said already, it's good to know that you've got good taste in books and that people are still reading my books. That's good to hear. As far as who's Jason Lee, I mean, I'm just, I grew up in Cape Town, lived there most of my life. I've been in Vancouver, Canada for the past 8 years. I'm married. I've got 2 boys. I've got a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old. They both love their sport. My oldest is a great little soccer player, and my youngest one he plays American football now, so he's a quarterback. So that's quite new for me.
Okay.
But in terms of my life and how I sort of found my way into property, when I was at school, I finished high school, and I had all these dreams of becoming a hotshot lawyer. And I think a lot of that was sort of Hollywood induced. I would watch these movies with Tom Cruise and watch these lawyers giving these amazing speeches. And I thought, yes, that's for me. I was never sort of like a mathematical science genius. So I thought, law's clearly the way to go. Mm-hmm. So I went to University of Cape Town. I studied law, and I loved studying law. I mean, I really, I had amazing lecturers. I used to really enjoy the actual, process of studying law. But when I finished studying, I then went and did my articles at a law firm in Cape Town. And within a couple of months, I actually realized that I absolutely hated practicing law. So as much as I enjoyed studying it, the actual day-to-day practice of it was a complete nightmare. Yeah. And it's quite a conundrum. I mean, I'd spent 6 years of my life studying at university. I mean, even at high school, I'd done Latin, I'd done everything to sort of, pave this kind of road for me to become a lawyer. And then, also, to qualify as a lawyer, you've got to do 2 years of articles. So it's an 8-year commitment. So at the end of that, I was looking at my life and going, oh my gosh, I've invested 8 years, but this is the last thing I actually want to do every single day of my life. It just made no sense to me. And at the time, I was actually living with my girlfriend, who's actually now my wife for 17 years. So that worked out quite well.
That's
we were renting an apartment together. And at the time, I was 25 at the time. And the property market at that particular time was quite slow, and interest rates were very low. And I did some basic maths, and I sort of said to her one day, I said, I've looked at this, and we could actually buy an apartment and own it for what it's costing us to rent this apartment. And, I was 25, she was 21, big decision, to suddenly go out and buy a property. So I made the decision, and I went and bought the local newspaper. So, I'm giving my age away here, but, in those days when you wanted to find a property, you'd buy the newspaper and you'd go to the property section, and a lot of the pictures would be in black and white. There wouldn't even be a color photograph. And I saw an advert for this apartment in Kenilworth in Cape Town, and it was advertised for 290,000 rand. Fortune in those days. And I looked at it, and what really stood out to me was the size of the unit. It was 141 square meters, which even with my lack of knowledge at the time, I knew that was big for an apartment. So I phoned the realtor and asked her if I could go see it. And the strangest thing happened. She didn't want to show it to me. And I said to her, well, what's the problem? She said, no. She said, look, if this is your first time you're buying a property, this is not for you. This property's been on the market for months. Like, loads of people have looked at it. No one wants to buy it. It's got a strange history. There's an old lady who actually died in the apartment, and it's completely original. No work's been done. The layout's really odd. So I said to her, look, I mean, let me come take a look. I'm interested. But, the more she told me that I wouldn't like it, the more I was sort of intrigued to go and see this place. So of course I walked through the door. I've got my girlfriend with me, and in 5 minutes she's like, "No, let's go. This place is absolutely awful. Like, I do not want to live here." But I don't actually have many talents in life, but the one I do seem to have is I can sort of, I have a vision for what a place could be. And it's really how I've made money in any deal I've ever done, is just having a vision and an ability to just see what could be. And straight away with this place, even though it was my first time I'd ever done a property deal, I looked past the fact that the walls were like this hospital white color, and the floors were this ugly, horrible, stained gray carpet. The layout was all back to front, because I could see that just with a little bit of work and a bit of tweaking, the layout could be changed, the walls could be painted. Ironically, when I pulled back the gray carpet, there was actually this beautiful, beautiful wide planked Oregon flooring, which is, worth an absolute fortune. All it needed to be was sanded. So the next problem I had, of course, was I had no money. I mean, I was just an article clerk. I was earning 2,000 Rand a month. So nothing. And the only way to buy the place was for my girlfriend and I to both buy it in both our names. So we put both our names in the mortgage. And I got 100% mortgage from the bank, and also convinced the bank to also pay for the transfer duty on the property.
Okay.
So essentially I paid it without putting a single cent into it. And we did the deal, bought it for 200. I think I knocked it down a bit. I think I maybe got it for 275,000 because nobody wanted it. And we moved into the place. And of course now, the place is old and it's terrible. And the next decision was we want to renovate it. But once again, I didn't have any money. And at the time,
one thing I can say is you definitely are a lawyer. You were able to convince your wife to move into that place.
Oh, I tell you what, I spend my life convincing her to do things like that. So I then met a mate of mine who had a contractor who was doing some work for him. And every time I'd go around to his house, the contractor used to make comments about my car. He was like, "Oh, such a nice car, such a nice." It wasn't such a great car, but he kept going on about my car. So the one day I said to him, "Look, I would like to renovate this property, and you like my car. So why don't we do a deal? You do the work, and I'll give you the keys to the car." And he agreed to it. So, when people always talk about, well, how do you make money without money? You just got to be a little creative. So anyway, he agreed to do the work, and he renovated the house. I gave him the keys to my car, and I sold the place a year later and made a 400,000 Rand profit.
Damn.
So I went from earning 2,000 Rand a month to suddenly having this windfall of 400,000 Rand, because, that time suddenly the market had gone up a little bit. The place was beautifully renovated. And it wasn't hard for me to suddenly go, okay, well, I could actually make a career change, because property can be very lucrative. So really, that's the long and the short is that's kind of was my starting point and how I sort of made that career change.